the Nigerian state is the man called Bruce Fein. Among other Biafra representatives and attorneys across the globe, we have him here today to talk to us, and we are going to be taking them point by point. In addition to Bruce Fein this evening, we also have, our women leader in the United States, Madam Bridget Okafor. She also will be here with us today because they are the brain and the mind behind all what is going on. Struggling and trying to do everything and put capability where capability is. So on this note, join us as we welcome our international attorney, or one of our international attorney, Bruce, in the name of Bruce Fein. For those of you who do not know Bruce Fein has served as a deputy attorney general of the United States as far back as 80s, when some of you were not born. A lot of things, but I will allow him to make some introduction of himself to the Biafrans and to the lovers of Biafrans around the world. Thank you very much, Bruce Fein. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to speak.
Yes.
Yes. Well, do you want me to give a little bit of background before you
yes,
ask a question?
Just give us a little bit of background. You know, we don't need you to go into history because we know it's going to be a long one. So just give us a brief history, a brief background, what you've done. Yeah, I know that between 80 to 81 or 81 to something, you were the deputy attorney general of the United States of America, and you were nominated to the position. You were nominated to the position of attorney general and all that. Well, I know those history, but a lot of people don't know about it.
Well, I think my baptism in Washington, D.C., after I had graduated from Harvard Law School and clerked in the federal courts, was impeachment of President Richard Nixon. And I helped in drafting those impeachment articles when I was age 25. So I've always been suspicious of limitless power and the importance of checks and balances to freedom and justice that need to reign everywhere in the world rather than just be geographically limited. I spent many years in the Justice Department, at the Federal Communications Commission, staff director in Congress. I've written books on the American Empire, the Constitution in peril. I've advised up to 40 governments on constitutional transitions, including South Africa, Sudan, South Korea, Hungary. I first became engaged in Nigerian affairs with the presidency that was short-lived of M.K. Abiola, who has served a very brief time before he was overthrown. You may recall his wife was killed. He was poisoned by Sami Abacha. Nadeko formed at that point. And I've been periodically engaged not only in Nigeria, but in other countries around the world in transitions to bring democratic dispensations from authoritarian regimes. It is an earmark, I think, of our common humanity that we seek to have justice implanted everywhere. And nowhere, I think, in the world is there more brutality that I've seen than in Biafra, encountering Python Dance 2, the Fulani herdsmen. Enugu still looks like a bombed-out World War II city, and the need to stand up and obtain justice is never more urgent than now. You always have to be vigilant to protect freedom because tyranny is at work 24 hours a day. And one of the things that I've learned and from experience as well as history is that in these kinds of efforts, if we don't hang together, we hang separately. The British were able, basically to occupy and conquer Nigeria, Biafra, because of internal internecine warfare and fighting. So we need to understand this quest is not only for ourselves, the living, but those yet to be born. And we have to then subordinate our egos to this common objective and good if we are to succeed. We can't afford to waste resources, money, and time on seeing who's going to be the top dog once we obtain independence. That defeats the purpose of this enterprise.
Thank you very much for that brief introduction. On this note, those of you that are watching from Facebook, those of you following us from Facebook, I think this is cracking or something. Cracking? Is it coming from me? Yeah, I think those of you watching from Facebook, you can switch to the Enter Biafra live streaming app to follow this program from there, so we can concentrate and see where the cracking is coming from. Right. On this note, we are going to introduce the woman leader, Madam Bridget Okafor. Madam Bridget, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to Biafras and all lovers of freedom. You are all welcome to this program today. Thank you.
It's coming out clear?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So I believe that there were some issues with the mic, but I think it is better now. So our viewers, what do you think about the mic? Are you hearing my voice?
Hello.
Is the sound okay?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm asking the audience.
Okay, can they talk without you unmuting?
No, yes. Some people, I'm at least reading the comment from them. So,
can you hear me now?
Bruce Fem should be.
Yes.
One moment. One of those things.
Okay, yes, now it's okay.
Yeah, the audio is working now. Yeah.
All right, Bruce is still here with us.
Yes,
he's going to appear in few seconds from now. If he's not already is on the screen, but I can't see him here. So I believe the system is refreshing, and is going to be back in few seconds. Sometime. All right. So on this note, without wasting any of your time, we are going to go straight to the point. Mr. Bruce.
Can you hear him, Bridget? I can't hear anything from him.
Oh my God. I can hear him. Can you hear me, Bruce?
I can hear you, Bridget. I can't hear him, though. Should I phase out and come back in again?
Yes. Can you go?
Yes, probably. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Once we start. So it's not going to be. Once he come back now, I think we're good to go.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Bruce, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Correct.
All right. Great. Sorry about that. So, you just explained what you've done in the past. Of course, this is just a very brief background. But now, let me ask you straight a question, because a lot of people are worried. We know that the United States of America sold Tucano aircraft to the Nigerian government. And as a result of that, Biafrans were worried, and you were consulted to take action against the purchase of this Tucano aircraft. I think that was in June of 2021, and within that period, between June and now, we've read a lot of stories, a lot of headlines, coming from the purchase of that Tucano aircraft. On July, you filed a lawsuit against the United States Secretary of State. You filed a lawsuit in that same lawsuit against the Secretary of Defense, Austin Lloyd. And so this lawsuit you filed was made public, and everybody, read the news in so many news media, like Sahara Reporters, Washington Post, and all that. Now, we understand that as a result of that lawsuit you filed in August, the U.S. Secretary of State, Blinken, was summoned to court to respond to your lawsuit, and this was because it goes because of the Leahy Amendment that prohibit any country from using U.S. Weapon to kill innocent people and all that. Now we understand that in October, the United States of America, as a result of that lawsuit you filed, the United States of America sent a memo to Nigeria government, reminding them of the terms of the sales of this Tucano aircraft. So, could you give us a little bit update? What is
Yes.
the
What has happened is that the Nigerians have been told that they are required to limit the use of the Super Tucanos to the northeast to attack genuine terrorists, which are Boko Haram. Although the government itself is infiltrated by Boko Haram, they cannot use the Super Tucano in the southeast. It's to the northeast where the terrorism is. Now, why is that and the United States has the ability to disable the aircraft if they're moved out of the northeast, because it's highly sophisticated technology that's involved. Now, I think this is a tacit recognition by the United States, one, that Biafrans are not terrorist groups, that Ipob is not a terrorist organization, even though the government of Nigeria, without any due process, identified it as a terrorist organization, suggesting that it's an act of terrorism simply to engage in free speech over Radio Biafra. And so it's quite clear that the Nigerians now are limited and prohibited from using the Super Tucano against Biafrans, which was the goal and purpose of the lawsuit in the first instance. But the second thing I think that's important is it's clear that now we've put the Biafran issue on the radar screen of the government, of the Biden administration, of Congress. And that's where we want to take it to the next step, not stop simply at the cessation of weapons being used against Biafrans, but affirmatively supporting an effort to have a independence referendum organized and conducted by the United Nations, as was done in South Sudan, so we can move forward. Sometimes it said good fences make good neighbors. There's been nothing in experience since 1960 to suggest there simply is not a way, given the history of division between the Fulani and the Biafrans, to think that they can coexist under a single sovereign roof. It's best to simply separate, like the Czech Republic and Slovak Republic did in 1993, and try to harmonize the two countries' trade and otherwise. But that's our next step after the Super Tucano victory.
Thank you very much. So just to be, for clarity, are you telling Biafrans the purpose of this lawsuit was, one, to compel the Nigerian government not to use the Tucano aircraft against innocent Biafrans, and to this regard, we have succeeded in getting that particular demand that is prohibiting the Nigeria government from using it, not just in other parts of Nigeria, but it is limited to the Northeast. Is that what you're trying to tell
Yes,
us?
that's it. I couldn't say it any better. I'll endorse every word you just spoken.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Because, a lot of people don't know this. And believe me, some people will be hearing it for the very first time. So, Biafrans, on this note, I will wish to make it more clearer that the Tokuno aircraft will not fly in any airspace in Nigeria other than the Northeast, right?
Correct. It's exactly
Thank you very much, Mr. Now, let us move forward. The issue of Tukuno aircraft confirmed and cleared, which means we are moving forward. And this lawsuit was filed in June. Bruce Fem was consulted in June, and the lawsuit was filed in July. And by August, between August and October, the United States government responded with a very strong letter and memo to the Nigeria government, and they will maintain that particular memo and they will not breach it. Now, the issue of extraordinary rendition of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, he was kidnapped in Kenya by the Nigeria government in collaboration with some criminals, and then the Kenya government. I was extraordinarily rendition to Nigeria, and he was exposed to all manner of human rights abuses, including torture and all that. Now, this issue of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu extraordinary rendition was also part of your involvement in this whole Biafra and the IPOB and the Biafra issue. Now, we have been able to record a very huge success just within few months of you coming into the picture. Now, what is going on? Can you tell us? We understand that you have been in Nigeria a couple of times, and you have been in Nigeria. The last time you went to Nigeria, you spent days, hoping to meet Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, and probably you were doing something on the ground and all that. Can you tell us? We know that in Nigeria, it is not that easy, and you have witnessed this yourself. You have seen how how they handle issues, especially cases of high-profile individual without minding their own law, without respect to international treaties and all that. Can you tell us more update? What is going on at this point? You left Nigeria a few days ago.
Yes. There are two avenues we're pursuing with regard to extraordinary rendition. I also had traveled to Geneva. I made a submission to a group. It's called the Working Group on Arbitrary Detention. It's a subgroup of the United Nations Human Rights Council. I've been in communication with them as recently as the last few days, and seeking a opinion that Nnamdi Kanu is being held illegally in violation of international law, in part because the extraordinary rendition, which flouts what's called the peremptory norm of international law. You can't arbitrarily detain someone without any hearing, which is what was done here, kidnapping. And I'm hopeful that we can get a ruling before November 10th. I've stressed that to the working group because we'd like to use it in the forthcoming hearing on our motion to dismiss the prosecution against Nnamdi Kanu, which is scheduled for November 10th. And also, we filed in the Nigerian courts a motion to dismiss the entire prosecution, in part because of the extraordinary rendition. There's a principle of law that's universal. A government should not be able to profit from its own crimes and wrongdoing. And that's what Nigeria is attempting to do here. Kidnap and illegally take him to Nigeria and then profit from the illegalities by prosecuting him in a bogus prosecution. Now, I have been, to give you, I think Nigeria, and I don't say this in a boasting way, I don't want to be arrogant, I think they view me as the most feared man in Nigeria. I've sought to, pursuant to a court order, to visit with Nnamdi Kanu to consult on international law on 4 separate occasions, giving advance notice to the DAS where he's being detained in solitary confinement. And on every occasion, when I go through, I check, I give my ID, they put me in a waiting room with the other local lawyers, and they've said, no, they make up excuses each time. Oh, the person who is to escort you is on special assignment. Oh, you're a foreigner. Oh, we can't find the key to the waiting room. So they've blocked me on 4 occasions, even though a court order specifically, the most recent one, issued, stated that Namdi is entitled to see any 3 persons that he wishes to, 2 times a week, Monday and Thursdays for 2 hours. So they're clearly quite frightened of what kind of advice and law can be brought to bear on his illegal detention. I think the next step in the equation here is the November 10th hearing, where the extraordinary rendition is one of the issues we're raising to justify dismissing the complaint. It's a 7-count complaint. I will be returning to Nigeria to be present at that hearing, and I would hope that the government would comply rather than defy the court orders. It was very clear on the last hearing, this was October 21, the government was simply harassing the lawyers, including myself. They blocked all the roads to the courthouse, so we had to walk 1.5 miles to just arrive at the court complex. It was surrounded as though it was under military siege in order to get through, to get into the courthouse whatsoever, to create an atmosphere of intimidation. And that is simply not consistent with the rule of law. And it's clear that the DSS believes that it's superior to the court's orders and simply ignores them when it wishes. That's why, among other things, we're seeking to have Namdi transferred to the regular prison population where he can visit with his lawyers without restriction, and we can actually use pencil and paper and notes in the communications. At present, even when you have access to Namdi Kano with the DSS, they don't even let you to bring in a pencil. You can just talk. You're expected to memorize every single word in a 2-hour conversation in their effort to compromise his ability to defend himself. So that's where we are on that score right now. And we just need to be persistent. We're not going to let them get away with trying to bury this. In addition to the court proceedings, I've had perhaps a dozen interviews on TV with local counsel, sometimes by myself, explaining the proceedings, trying to elaborate on why it's so important for the rule of law and for the freedom, really, for all Nigerians. This is not, in some sense, only about Biafrans, although they're the brunt of the genocide at present. Now, no one really has freedom in Nigeria because the government simply acts at whim. Everybody's, in some sense, in jeopardy. And we need to bring a new dispensation to Nigeria that makes sure that everyone can live in peace and harmony. We don't want to have vengeance. We don't want retribution against any particular group. But Biafrans have a right to self-determination, just like any other peoples who are undergoing decolonization, indeed consistent with the United States' own Declaration of Independence. The governments are legitimate only if they're elected by the consent of the people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bruce Fain. Sorry, that our mothers in the U.S., they ran to you, they contracted you for these jobs because they could not find and see their son, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. As I'm talking to you, they are very worried. They are very worried, not just because Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is incarceration. They are very worried that also you were unable to meet with their son, which was the primary purpose. So can you explain to them, because we know it isn't just about meeting with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. I understand that you have worked very closely with the local attorneys, with the attorneys in Nigeria, with the lead counsel, with the special counsel. I understand that you have worked closely with them. So can you assure the women, the mother, that contracted you to do this job, which the result is already coming out, that it doesn't matter? Can you assure them, explain to them that even though you couldn't meet with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu at this point, that you have worked closely, and what you have done with the lead counsel, what you have done with the lawyers back home to make sure that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu get both international and local representation with quality, legal knowledge that is needed to drive this thing forward?
Yes, I've spent hours and hours with Ejiofor, the lead local counsel, and Aloy, and worked collectively on drafting the submissions to the court. It is very clear that the Nigerian government is targeting me because they would permit his local counsel to meet with Nnamdi. I'm there. I have my ID. I'm acting in a very, very professional, courteous fashion, and they just say no. You can't see him. 4 times, and they make up ridiculous excuses every time. And the last one, comes after the court specifically rebuked DSS and said Nnamdi is entitled to see 3 persons of his wish anytime, Mondays and Thursdays. And when he put my name in, we went to the DSS again, showed him my name, I gave him my ID, and they said again, no. They were not going to comply with the court order. But they did permit later the local attorneys to come. So they clearly are frightened of me. Now, I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not the Terminator. All I have with me is a sense of justice that ought to apply to all Nigerians, certainly Biafrans. And that's, I believe, what frightens them. But we need to be persistent. I'm going back again. I have to go back 100 times. I'll go back 100 times because you have a constitutional, international law right to counsel to defend yourself in a criminal case. That's enshrined in all sorts of treaties that Nigeria itself has signed. And that right is being denied by the Nigerian government on every occasion where they tell me I can't meet with my client.
Thank you very much. That's a very brilliant one, and I hope that our mothers are listening to you, and they know that whether or not you meet with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is not just necessary. It is not the main issue. The main issue is that you are there and helping, making sure that he get the best legal representation needed in this case. Now, the next thing I want you mentioned about working, having filed some application or having visited some working committee or working group on arbitrary detention. So could you shed more light about that? What is the status of that? Have you been able to file any document or any paper to the arbitrary committee, and is there any response so far?
Yes. There's called a 5-member working group on arbitrary detention that sits in Geneva. It works under the auspices of the United Nations Human Rights Council. And I submitted a very comprehensive statement, putting it on an urgent track, identifying all of the reasons why Nnamdi Kanu is a political prisoner. He is being arbitrarily detained, not only the extraordinary rendition without any hearing whatsoever, but also his denial of the right of access to counsel with adequate time and facilities. In response to that petition, I received a response from the working group asking for an additional document. I created an update of the submission with regard to the refusal of the DSS to permit me to see Nnamdi Kanu despite the court order. And I underscored the importance of obtaining an opinion, which is what the working group issues, finding that Nnamdi Kanu's detention is arbitrary and illegal under international law by at least November 10th. And I'm optimistic that can happen. There'll be a further submission I will make on Monday. But I think they do have a sense of the urgency of this, and they clearly have it on the front burner and has caught their attention.
Thank you very much. That is also cleared as well. So there is an application before the arbitrary committee on torture and all that. Now we are going to go. I'm going to go forward. I have a lot of things to talk about. I hope we have the time, but you have actually touched most of these things I wanted to ask you about. I want to also. I am aware from what you have said earlier meeting where I happened to be in those Zoom meeting, where you have mentioned about being going into or embarking on a bilateral dialogue with friendly nation to persuade them to file a complaint at the ICG against Nigeria on genocide being meted on Biafrans all over Nigeria. So could you also give us what is the status and what is there any update from this particular? Sorry, because my question is not just ordinary question. It's going to be a comment and then question. Because I need to explain to people, the viewers, with a very primary, coming down to a very secondary level or primary level for them to understand. Because this is very important and very imperative at this point that we know what is going on, what is really going on, and what you have done. So you mentioned having embarked on this bilateral, process to make this nation file some kind of case against Nigeria for genocide. Can you give us update on that? Has anything been filed so far?
Yeah, no. I think some background may be useful to the audience. There's a court called the International Court of Justice that sits at The Hague in the Netherlands. It was created by the United Nations Charter, to which Nigeria is a signatory. And the jurisdiction of the ICJ extends only to suits brought between nations, not against individuals or by individuals. And one of the bases for jurisdiction of the court is to entertain claims by one nation against another of genocide, claims that a genocide convention has been violated, and Nigeria is a signatory to the Genocide Convention. And recently, the Gambia sued Myanmar in the International Court of Justice based on a claim of genocide against the Rohingya in Myanmar. They won some earlier skirmishes. So we had decided, based upon our contacts and what we think would be diplomatic receptiveness to the idea, we approached Greece and made initial feelings to Israel to see whether they would be willing to file genocide suit against Nigeria in the International Court of Justice. Unfortunately, an earlier trip I had planned to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem to visit was waylaid because the airline mistakenly thought I needed to have a visa as a U.S. citizen, which I didn't. So at present, I'm scheduled after November 10th to visit the Foreign Office of Israel in Jerusalem to discuss the suit against Nigeria in the International Court of Justice. That may not be the only, and there are all sorts of what you might call ulterior motives that nations have for suing. It's not limited to, we're not limited to just Israel. You can have one or two or three, a half dozen nations may sue Nigeria over the genocide, and they all have their particular concerns and worries. So that's where we are. It got slowed a little bit because the airline blocked me by erroneously insisting I have a visa. But I think we're on good track at present to get this fully explained to the Foreign Ministry of Israel. You know as well, I'm sure all your audience, that Nnamdi Kanu himself has spent time in Israel, received medical treatment. He subscribes to Judaism, and he has some contacts in the foreign ministry based upon his previous stay there. So that all makes the circumstances very propitious, but they say nothing's done until it's actually decided. So that's the best update I can give now. I should have more shortly after my visit, post-dating the hearing on November 10th.
Great. So, let me just, get this point very clear, for just clarity's sake. Did you say that we are expecting to get some communication from the UN Arbitrary Committee, maybe sometime November or something?
Yes, I'll be contacting them. I urge them to try to render an opinion before November 10th, so it could be available in the argument on the dismissal of the prosecution. But you know, as attorneys, you can't force decision making.
Yeah.
They don't have a particular timetable. But I think, in some sense, I was able, by my own personal experience, witnessing the government of Nigeria flout the court order on meeting with my client, Nnamdi Kanu. I think that gave this a little extra ignition and jumped it in the queue. So I don't know for certain, but I'm optimistic we'll get something by November 10th.
Great. So I let me ask this question. I know that Nigeria is not a very good place to be. I don't want to go into asking you about experience because I know the experience may be very, very bad. But is it true that you were in Nigeria for 10 days, working with the local attorneys?
Yes, I've been to Nigeria for 10 days and then earlier 4 days. So yes, I've been there for a protracted period.
Wow.
And but I'll say this: that the Nigerians are very hospitable peoples, and I've been treated, outside the DSS with great generosity, and I have enjoyed the stay. But I have to say, it's a long journey, and it's like 18 hours when you take Ethiopian Airways. It takes you away from home for a long time, but it's worth it, compared to what the suffering you're trying to ameliorate. It's something that you can sacrifice very easily for.
Wow. Right now, we know that you just mentioned that the next trial is coming on the 10th of November. So are you going to be there as well?
Yes, I'll be there as well. I'll be leaving November 7th, so I'll have a couple of days to assist in the preparation. But I will be there on November 10th in the courtroom.
Great, great. Now, the next thing I wanted to, please don't be offended. I know that I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, but I will try as much as possible to, to make it a little bit lesser, to hit the point that people will need to know, because a lot of things are flying on social media and people are talking too much and all that. So it is good that we put these things just a place where it should be. Now, there is this article that the Washington Times published about against the IPOB. We know that a lot of working group, react. In fact, the Biafrans all over the world reacted, including different working group for the restoration of Biafra and the IPOB attorneys all over the world. Everybody reacted to this particular publication by the Washington Times. I want to ask you a specific question on this, because having known that so many group and so many organizations working for IPOB actually reacted to this particular publication by the Washington Times by Dr. or Professor Shehan, who wrote an opinion, an opinion on the Washington Times about IPOB being a small terrorist group in Africa. America is ignoring them and all that. I was informed that you actually filed a lawsuit against this publication. So can you clarify to us what really happened? Did you file a lawsuit? Is it against the school or against the publisher or against the Washington Times and all that? Can we get a clear picture of what exactly you did?
Sure. I filed the lawsuit. It's pending now in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia against Mr. Sheehan, the University of Baltimore, and the Washington Times. So there are three defendants. I also wrote a letter to my old Department of Justice, the Foreign Agent Registration Act, because if it's true, and I highly suspect it is, that Mr. Sheehan did not write this diatribe against Ipob without having been consulted the government of Nigeria. He had to register as a foreign agent under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which he didn't do. That's a criminal violation. And I communicated my suspicion to the Department of Justice, and they're now investigating. Now, we have filed the lawsuit, and if the lawsuit alleges, which I think the circumstantial evidence is overwhelming, that Mr. Sheehan wrote this polemic against IPOB, urging the United States, which they're not going to do, to list Ipob as a terrorist organization because he received some money. He was paid off by the government of Nigeria. We also believe that he was able to use his affiliation with the University of Baltimore, which ordinarily would be withheld on such what I would call an unprofessional opinion, which is based on virtually nothing but lies, uncorroborated, fanciful assertions that Biafrans chop off the heads of babies with machetes and bury them without any identification of time, place, or manner. That the University of Baltimore probably also received some compensation or money from the government of Nigeria to permit the affiliation to be used. And the Washington Times, almost immediately after the article appeared, I wrote a letter to the editor, to the Washington Times, pointing out all of the misstatements, that the real terrorist was the government of Nigeria, not Biafrans or Ipob. I immediately got an email back, and I showed this to Ben, who's on the program with me. And they said, we'll publish your letter tomorrow. Well, it never got published. I've been in the news business for 40 or 50 years. That doesn't happen unless somebody higher up decided to kill the letter to censor it. And so we also think that Nigerian government got involved with the Washington Times in some covert way to have that letter squelched. After I had been told, and I've never had a letter when the publisher says we're going to publish something killed afterwards without any explanation at all, unless there was some intercession, by a third party. So that's why we added the Washington Times, because that letter wouldn't have been quashed if the Nigerian government didn't intercede to try to get it quashed.
Thank you very much. Before I go further with some of the clarification I want to get from this particular issue, I want to welcome our big gallant man, Ben Nwankwo. Ben Nwankwo is one of the biggest brother here who have been supporting the women, the mothers in the United States, and he is a great man in this struggle. Dr. Ben Nwankwo, you are welcome to this program.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you so very much. I want to thank you for the opportunity to host this program, and at this very critical moment. And
Bridget,
thank
can you
Bruce.
hear? I can't hear anything.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear Ben?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can't hear Ben.
Oh my God. Okay. What will happen is before Ben can go ahead, can you
exit?
Can you exit and come back again? Because I know that's the problem. All right, Mr. Ben, just 1 moment. Let Bruce come back so you can make your statement before we go further with this question.
Okay.
Hi, Brother Ben.
Thank you, Madam Bridget. How are you?
I'm okay.
All right, Mr. Bruce, can you hear Mr. Ben now?
Hi, Bruce.
Okay, I'm back on.
Can you hear me? He can't hear me. I don't know what's going on.
Can you, Mr. Bruce? Can you hear him?
Are you hearing anything, Bridget? I can't. I'm not.
Yes, I can hear all of them. I can hear Brother Ben. I can hear Simon. You cannot hear Brother Ben. Can you say hi to him again?
Yeah. Could you hear me, Bruce?
No. Well, let me exit and come back again. Let me try another time.
Okay. So try and come back again. Just close the listing completely and come back again. I think it has to do with what he's using, because nobody else is having this problem.
Correct.
All right. Yes, Mr. Bruce, are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Let's see if I can hear Ben.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, right on. Hey.
Very good. How are you? How are you, Bruce?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, Ben.
Very good. Simon, with your permission, I call him, I give him a new name, but I haven't told him what that is yet. I call him Attorney Result. He gets result. Attorney Result.
Yes, so that's what it is.
Biafrans are result oriented. Anyway, but Simon, I'm gonna get up. I want to thank you for hosting this program at this critical time, and I just want to thank you for doing that. I will have a couple of questions once what the time when you allow me to, so I don't
All right.
interrupt the program. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ben. All right, Mr. Bruce. You've just mentioned about the lawsuit which is pending. Do you mind telling us? We know that the lawsuit has something to do with the defamatory of the indigenous people of Biafra. So, do you mind telling us, some of the content? Are you making demand? Are you making demand? On behalf of Biafra and the IPOB, and what exactly are you demanding?
The demands, we want at least $50 million in damages, plus a retraction that's publicized with the same prominence of which the initial allegations were made. The gist of the article, which was quite terrible, was really a recitation of alleged massacres that Biafrans had perpetrated against the Fulani. They said chopping little babies' heads off, attacking security personnel. There's never any specific time, place, manner. It's all at a generalized level. That is an earmark of someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, saying that it's critical that the Secretary of State list Ipob as a terrorist organization. So I have 21 counts of defamation that are in the complaint, and we're asking collectively, because we believe this was done maliciously, what's called punitive damages in the eyes of the law, at least $50 million in payment, and equally important, a very prominent retraction that these were lies. They were not true, and the retraction needs to be as prominent as the allegations, and removing the article from the internet so it can't sit there, like a permanent stigma out there to anybody who reads about it and thinks there's a half a salt of truth about it.
So, just for clarity, are you saying that you have filed a 21 count defamatory charges against the suit against the institution that are involved in this defamatory?
Yes, 21 counts. 21 counts is right.
And each count, what is the demand for each count?
Well, they're punitives.
Don't tell us all, but just what you said. It's over $50 million of lawsuit. So what is the demand for each count of the 21?
In terms of just pleading, oftentimes attorneys just say damages, whatever is provable at trial. And we think if you add punitive damages, in addition to the compensatory damages, mean all the donations, all the lost reputation, all the support that Ipob has lost because of these utterly ridiculous allegations suggesting it's a murderous regime. Punitive damages are to punish the wrongdoers for doing something maliciously. When you put that together, I think it would clearly exceed 50 million when you add the punitive damages in. So it's a very, very large amount. I doubt whether Mr. Shaheen has that amount of money, but the Washington Times probably has liability insurance, and they would be able to pay a very stiff judgment.
Anyway, information, because I have been able to do some research about this, and the information that is available to me is that we are given 13 days to respond to this particular suit. So, have you been briefed, or have you gotten any response that they have responded so far?
No, they have not. Under the federal rules, there's a 21-day response time, but they still have a couple of weeks to go. But at least at present, total silence. Which I say, and kind of jumping around here, under the working group in Geneva, the federal government of Nigeria, the foreign ministry, has had a long time to respond to my submission on the arbitrary detention of Nnamdi Kanu, and typically complete silence. I often say that the Fulani have two words in their vocabulary, violence and bribery. And once you get beyond those two words, they're totally inarticulate.
Thank you very much. And then also, have you been able to get any response from the president of Baltimore, of the University of Baltimore, or is he also included in the suit?
No, the president himself as an individual is not included in the suit. I did write a separate letter to the president asking that they undertake an investigation of Mr. Sheehan to determine whether his conduct was consistent with the professional standards and integrity required of University of Baltimore personnel. Now, that's only a couple of days old. I suspect that he will want to talk to Mr. Sheehan before he responds, but right now I'm awaiting an answer.
It is not up to our yet. Yeah, all right. Yeah, but but here is just 5:58. Yeah. Well, I will soon be there. I will soon be there. Mm. Yeah. All right. Sorry for that interruption. That's another important call. Sorry for that interruption. Now, please, Mr. Bruce, this particular issue I have just discussed here today, there is, we understand a lot of things are being said all over the internet. You've known Nigeria, you've been to Nigeria before. This is not your first time of dealing with issue concerning Nigeria, and so you are quite very vast on issue about Nigeria and how corrupt the country is, and how most of the politicians and all that. What assurance? I know that nobody, an attorney, will give assurance that anything is going to happen or guarantee of anything. But I want to go overboard. I want to ask you, what kind of assurance are you giving to our mothers who are now putting a lot of trust and hope in you, because believing that you are going to deliver in most of those things that we have just addressed today, and maybe other things that are to come that are yet not in the pipeline?
I can't make guarantees because I don't control what other people do.
Yes.
What I can promise is that I'm unstinting in my efforts. It's tireless. It's sleepless. I spend virtually every day. I stay a lot of time away from Washington, D.C. in this cause. And to the extent one human being can advocate for justice, to that extent, that's what I spend my life doing here. And I don't intend to stop until I'm able to walk down the streets of Enugu and see a capital city there, the capital of the new state of Biafra. And until that comes, there will always be work for me to do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think I would. I am quite satisfied so far, and looking forward to have another one-on-one program with you as we move forward. I thank you very much, and it is an honor to have you here on this program today. We are going to keep our fingers crossed. On this note, I will allow Ben, our big guy here, to make some comment and ask some questions. Brother Ben, as you are moving forward, remember that we have fundraising going on now, which I have to also attend. And
I'll be very brief. Simon.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Real quick, Mr. Fine, could you explain to Biafrans how the resolution we are seeking for, how is that parallel to the dissolution of Czechoslovakia in the Central Europe?
Mm-hmm. Yes. The parallel is that what we want is a formula that is nonviolent. We're not seeking any kind of warfare, threats. Czechoslovakia, they divided. They decided that the Czechs and the Slovaks simply had different histories, different cultures, different values. And so they peacefully resolved to divide the country. They divided liabilities. They divided assets. They divided government agencies. And they've gone their separate ways. They obviously trade with one another. And that really is a model that can be done in Nigeria. It doesn't, and we don't want violence. And there's no reason why, even after countries separate, that there can't be close ties. I often remark the United States became a very close ally of Great Britain after we won the Revolutionary War. and there can be close trade ties and many, many other ways in which there can be harmony. But it's better to recognize reality rather than to blink reality. And it's clear from the long history, it isn't just from 1960, it goes back to 100 years or more, that there simply is not a compatibility between the Fulani and the Biafrans that would enable them sensibly to live under one sovereign roof, as opposed to separate roofs, but then dealing with one another, at an arm's length adult relationship.
Thank you, Bruce. Because ever since you told me about that, I have my own copy, and I have already started to read that. Just to get more information. It is very clear and very important that our people understand that we are not seeking for war, we are not seeking for violence. Nobody has to die. We do not hate the Fulani people. I believe personally that majority of the Fulani population, that they want peace. They want to live in peace with their people, enjoy their tradition and their culture. They're different people, and there's nothing wrong with being different. So that was why I asked that question. And my second question is this. A few years ago, I believe it was in 2019, that your law firm sued the Buhari government, not Buhari personally, but some of his generals at the International Criminal Court. Could you tell us the status of that filing as of now?
Well, I think, Ben, there were two separate filings. The International Criminal Court, that's like, that operates basically once they receive allegations in secret until and unless they actually indict someone. So they don't tell you, well, we're at this stage of the investigation. You have a right to add or amplify or augment your allegations and from the initial filing. Now, we did get something back acknowledging. They give you a case number, so you can supplement evidence with evidence that will track with the case number from the International Criminal Court. There was another case that we brought under the Torture Victims Protection Act against many of the generals. I think there are about 13, including governors, claiming that they were complicit in extrajudicial killings of Biafrans. Unfortunately, the court said, well, we didn't have jurisdiction because the massacres were all in Nigeria and the defendants were in Nigeria. Therefore, the United States didn't have a valid interest to adjudicate the claim. I think it was clearly wrong. I think we need to amend the U.S. Torture Victim Protection Act, but we never got to the merits there because of the jurisdictional issue. So those were the two kind of companion cases.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for that education. Well, Simon, I have several other questions, but I want to be respectful to your time. So I will end it here and we'll pick it up some other time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're definitely going to bring Bruce again as we progress in this journey. Definitely to constantly brief Biafrans on what is going on and the progress being made so far. So it is quite clear now that we can go and sleep. Super Tokuno will not fly on our airspace. That's one thing we have assured Biafra this evening, and it has been achieved just within 2 months. Madam Bridget, we have fundraising going on now for ESN, which I'm advising everybody watching us to join us for that fundraising. And another fundraising is tomorrow. Do you have anything to ask, or do you have any questions to ask? Because
Yes.
we have some question.
I have a comment to make.
Okay, let it be very, very, very brief, so that we'll join our people the other side.
No problem. I just want to let Biafran know, or the Biafran people to understand, that we are dealing with Bruce. We are dealing with somebody who understands our problem, who have knowledge of our problem, and who is sacrificing a lot to solve that problem. He is always on ground to make sure that things are done. He is not just there in the office dishing out paperwork. But Bruce has, I was so thrilled the first time we had a meeting with him about the knowledge he has about Biafra. He even knows more of Biafra than any of us. About the knowledge he has about locality where Biafra is situated, and what we have been going through, and his readiness to make it easy for us. How he has broken down everything that he's going to do for us, And as he's doing it, he is giving us results. Results are coming, which we can see. We know that our people and DSS are blocking him from seeing our leader, but that doesn't make him to stop what he is doing. He's still working hard for us. And we thank him so much. We are very much grateful with the much that he has done and the more that he's going to do in the near future. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you very much. Fortunately, we've just lost Bruce. I don't know, if you. I think this is it. We don't have any other thing for him to address us.
No,
But he just left. But we have done. The message has been passed, and we will continue from here. I must thank you very much, Brother Ben, for your work and making sure that you stand with the back, behind our mothers, and they are making sure that this thing is happening and happening today. So thank you very much, and Jidekiji.
Thank you.
So
Thank you, Simon.
Jidekiji. Thank you very much, Brother Ben. And we are going to leave here.
Thank you.
The live broadcast is still on for those who are going to participate on the fundraising. The live broadcast is still on. I may be hooking this fundraising live on this program. So don't go away, all of you watching me today. Brother Ben, thank you very much.
If you don't mind, if I can just make one other comment. Tomorrow is our fundraising, and this fundraising is meant specifically to help free our leader. We know that regardless of whatever we are doing, if our leader is not with us, it's all going backwards. The only thing that will make things go forward and help us to be on our footing is when our leader is around. We have seen it already with the 3 months that is not here. That is why
Hmm.